Before we begin as tutorial video, I try my best to include the knowledge and experience I've gained over a long time while leaving out fun and entertaining elements as much as possible. I truly hope this video helps you out a lot. Most of the time, support remover happens right after printing is done, so I don't think I'm gonna explain the support remover separately. Let me briefly explain the sanding. Sanding doesn't require any special skill, but in a way, I think it's even more important than painting itself. My college major was jewelry craft, so you can definitely trust me on this part. I've seen so many videos by YouTubers who do sloppy job or skip sanding are together because it's annoying and takes a lot of time. To give a similar example, that's like washing a car before washing it and expecting it to shine. You might be able to hide it cleverly with the camera tricks in a YouTube video, or it might not show well, but if you wanted the precious figure you worked so hard on, and so have it painted still well for a long time and look great, I strongly recommend spending a lot of time on sanding. Since this is a tutorial video, let me explain it more precisely. First, it's easy to understand if you know the characteristics of resin. Resin turns solid only when it cures, and during that process, it releases a lot of invisible gas. Also, a thin oily film forms on the surface, which is why we clean it with alcohol. But no matter how much you wash and cure it, it's hard to properly cure the very inside of the resin. So let me share the important tip. I recommend curing the well-washed resin printer under the UV light for at least 10 minutes. And after that, letting it dry in the room corner for at least a few days or up to a week. The reason is that as time passes, the resin gradually cures further under natural light and fully releases the gas inside. Right here, when we peel off the oil film on the surface through sanding and wash it again with alcohol, the adhesion of the primer and paint becomes at least twice as strong. And one more thing, always wear gloves before painting. I even use silicone finger cuts to prevent the hand oil from getting on the surface to be painted. A huge amount of oil comes off human hands. Because of that, the paint doesn't stick well. Sanding is a very boring and tough job. And you can tell by how sanding technicians in my major, jewelry craft, get high salary and really good treatment. To save time with minimal labor and get great results, let me recommend a few essential tools needed for sanding. First, the most important item is the mask. It's important to distinguish between the dust filter and the air filter. Please replace the filter according to your intended use. Next is the sanding machine from DSPN. It's a pen-style wireless sanding machine with a built-in battery. The downside is that it lacks power, but since it's a straight line motion sander, it's very useful quite often. You can switch the use various types of sanding tips. This next roller tool is one of the most commonly used tools in the metalworking, and it's one of the most important tools for both sanding and other machining processes. The biggest difference between the two types of roller tools is their power. I recommend the type of roller tool that's mainly used for nail art. The reason is you don't need a lot of power to cut and shape the resin. And for modeling work where you need to frequently change different bits, a nail art roller tool is definitely more convenient. It also comes with a full switch as standard, which makes it very convenient to use while working. And purchasing bits, and make sure to check the shank size. The next tool is the second sander I use the most. So this is definitely a sander you should have. This sander moves from side to side, and because of its corded, it's got plenty of power. It's good for almost any types of surface, so you can do more than 50% of all your sanding with this one tool. It also comes with several different types of tips. Next is a sanding file. It's very useful for sanding areas that sanding tools can't reach. One more thing I'd recommend is getting a set with both needle files and large files like the one I use. They are very useful for sanding large flat surfaces such as base. Now I will introduce some essential sanding supplies. First, we have a sanding stick and then sanding sponge. I actually made this tool myself. I mainly use it for sanding curves with the sanding paper or sanding sponges. And finally, polishing wheels for lottery tool. And these are made for polishing, so instead of removing material from the surface, they help to quickly remove the many scratches created during the sanding process. There are many other sanding tools out there, but you won't have any problems work with just the tools I recommended. I will include links in the products in the description below the video, so you can check them out. Now that we're done with the tool recommendations, let's briefly talk about how to sand. For all sanding tools, the lower the grid number, the rougher it is. The higher the number, the finer it gets. For most sanding jobs, I start with the 400 grit and finish it with the 800 grit to get a great surface. In some special cases, such as candy painting where very high shine is needed, I may sand up to 10,000 grit. This time I will show you the safest and fastest way to remove support marks. We're going to use the rotary bit I introduced earlier. To briefly explain this bit, it has diamond powder attached to metal rod. And here's where my background comes in a little. You might be wondering if we really use expensive diamond powder for this. And yes, we do. But it's actually not that expensive. Instead of high-grade diamonds used for rings, we use rough diamonds with a lot of impurities. They are crushed into small pieces, then glued onto the metal rod. Now back on the main topic, this bit makes it very easy to remove support marks. I especially recommend it for 3D models where there are many complex, thin and narrow areas. The surface of bit is very rough, but it doesn't create as many scratches as you might expect. So after using a bit, simply smooth the surface with a 600 degree sandpaper and you will get a clean surface. That brings us to the end of our sanding guide. Of course, there's much more to learn about sanding, but honestly, you won't need anything beyond this when making figures. So I think you will have more than enough knowledge to reach an advanced level with just what we've covered here. Alright, in the next video, we'll continue with the cell shading painting tutorial. But before that, why not print out the attached file and put what you've learned in this video into practice by doing some proper sanding. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.